This is part 2 of a 3-part podcast.
Hi, this is Mark. Sometimes talking to a friend or family member about permaculture can be met with a blank stare if it's all new to them. A great way to explain some of it can be over a card game using permaculture playing cards, which each have interesting facts with quality illustrations and descriptions. A wide range of people, places, and things, all related to permaculture, can be found on the permaculture playing cards at richsoil.com/cards.
Okay, hugelkultur. With soil on wood, you can eliminate your need for irrigation and fertilizer. That's kind of such a big part of it. Granted, you got to build it. And some people kind of have this whole thing of like, oh, it's too hard. And then they go and they do a flat garden, and they're doing all this work for a flat garden. And it's kind of like, I'm going to say that building a hugelkultur is less work maybe in 3 years, less work than a flat garden. I'm going to speculate, especially if you're doing it by hand, which a lot of people bring that up when you're doing it by hand. And it's like, no, you can easily do it by hand. And there's this little animated image right here kind of showing how you do it by hand. Uh-huh. And it's where you put wood on the ground, you kind of dig to the sides and stack the dirt on top of the wood. Then you put more wood on that, dig to the sides more. So basically you build something that's about 3 or 4 feet tall. And then because the trenches you just dug are 3 to 4 feet deep, then if you're standing in the trench, then the whole thing is 7 or 8 feet tall. Mm-hmm. And it's like, so you didn't build something all that big, and you did it completely by hand.
That's cool.
All right, next slide, please. Willow Feeder. We just did a Kickstarter for this last year. So now we have a movie, and we have a book. I think the book is like nearly 200 pages long.
Oh, wow, cool.
And we've got plans and all kinds of stuff. But the idea is that, and people keep pointing at it and saying, oh, it's a composting toilet. And it's like, no, it's an alternative to a composting toilet. And a lot of composting toilets are made to be illegal. Uh-huh. And it turns out there's good reasons for this. So we're trying to design a system that will not be illegal. Mm-hmm. And so I think we've got something that is a step or two above a composting toilet.
Yeah.
Less work, easier to deal with, and is going to feed the plants more, things like that. So instead of composting, then we try to preserve that material. We try to basically make poop jerky. And instead of trying to compost it, we want to try to get it to last. Now, the bottom line is we've been doing this for like 10, 12 years now. Uh-huh. And what we have learned is that we will take a full can and set it aside for 2 years, and then we will go and dump it at the foot of a willow tree. And we will, when we open the can after 2 years, it's like half the material is gone. So I would have to say it did compost a little.
Yeah.
And so I'd rather it didn't, but there you go. And we call that material inside the can the willow candy. There is a urine diverter in the system, which is different than some of the composting toilets or the humanure system. Mm-hmm. In fact, I would have to say that this design is standing on the shoulders of the humanure book. Uh-huh. So, because the humanure book just is amazing and has a lot of excellent content in it. But what I wanted to do is to make something that was just much, much easier and then also more regulator friendly. Mm-hmm. And so something that might be not only tolerated by regulators, but in time it could be rewarded. And so there could be programs that could say, like, if you do this, we'll like give you money and stuff. There's a community in Missoula County where they had a sawmill that recently got shut down, and the sawmill was doing great. The problem that they had is that they ran out of housing in the area because they couldn't build a sewage treatment plant. And so the county said, you cannot permit any more septic tanks. And of course, I don't think apartment buildings do septic tanks. And they needed more housing for all of the workers for the mill. So this would work. This would solve it all.
Yeah.
But, it might be 30 more years until they accept it. And so it needed to be invented. And so there you go. It's out there now.
Well, there's so many problems in the world that permaculture has already solved the problem. I mean, it's kind of got to the point there aren't really problems anymore. There's just people don't really know that we already have a solution for that.
I think one of the biggest selling points on a willow feeder, whether it's an indoor willow feeder or an outdoor willow feeder, is that it has less odors.
Oh, yeah.
So a flush toilet has a lot of odors. And so willow feeders don't. Willow feeders are lovely and delightful. And that's because there's an exhaust system. So then the material that goes past the toilet seat, there's air going into the system via the same seat.
Uh-huh.
And so it's never coming out to where people are. It's all being pulled in. So when you step out of a willow feeder, nobody knows what you were doing in there. Whereas if you're going to step into a conventional bathroom, or you step out of a conventional bathroom and somebody goes in right after you, it might be very clear to them what you were just doing in there.
Yeah.
And damn. All right. Next slide, please. Dry outhouse.
Outhouse.
So this basically takes the idea of the willow feeder, but like, let's feed the willow trees directly. So let's do this outdoors. Now, outhouses are a big problem. And so what we've done is we've modified the designs a little bit to transform it into something that is actually even better than a willow feeder.
Oh. And
so the idea is that any rain in the area gets diverted away from the dry outhouse. The urine diverter directs the urine to a mulch pit. And then the material that goes down into the pit below the dry outhouse will in time be found by the willow trees. And then it'll take that material, the willow candy, back out immediately so that the pit will never fill. Next slide, please. Never buy chicken feed again. So,
excuse me, I apologize.
Okay. So,
sorry about that.
the idea is, what can you plant that chickens can self-harvest? Because it was, when I was up on Mount Spokane, I raised a lot of chickens. I had a huge flock for eggs, and I raised a lot of meat chickens, and I was selling meat at the time. And
were you? You were processing them yourself, the meat chickens?
I did. And but moving on from that, when I did the math at the end, I found that for both eggs and for meat, and I was doing the salatin pins for the meat, and moving those salatin pins around, and then I had a couple of giant chicken runs set up for the layers, and I found that, and I was buying feed, and I found that I was selling eggs and selling meat for less than what I was paying for the feed.
No way.
And so I was going into the negative. And so I started to develop systems so that way I wanted to completely eliminate my feed costs. But even more than that, there's this whole concept of like, what is chicken feed? Like the chicken feed you buy, how does it compare to the exact same product that's for human beings? Oh. And it's kind of like, so for example, wheat would be, my chicken feed would have a lot of wheat in it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, why? And I used to drive combine when I was a young fella. And sometimes if we hit a patch of wheat that wasn't very good, we would cut that separately because we wouldn't get as much money because it would be sold as chicken feed.
Yeah.
And then, but if it was really good, high quality wheat, then we would do that separate from the chicken feed wheat because that's going to be for human feed.
Yeah.
But if they go to store the human feed and something goes wrong, then it goes back to being chicken feed. So a lot of times it's covered in mold, or it's got a lot of insect poop or rodent poop in it, because that happened. And stuff like that. And it's kind of like, all right, so now it's chicken feed. So basically, when you buy chicken feed, it is a very low quality food. And it's kind of like, so I'm selling the meat and the eggs for a little bit less than what I'm paying for the food. And I am not okay with that. I can't keep it going. I mean, it doesn't even compensate me at all for all the time and effort I put in. And so it's kind of like, so I wanted to be able to, and then there came the idea, which is a dumb idea. How about if I just grow all that stuff, I'll harvest it, I'll store it, and then I'll feed it to my chickens. And it's like, there's
a lot of work.
Enormous amount of work. So then I kind of started exploring the whole idea of never buying chicken feed again. I'm going to grow a whole bunch of stuff that the chickens can harvest themselves.
Yeah.
And so sunchokes, wheat, sepulchre grain, winter apples. It's important that they're winter apples. Because when other apples are available, the chickens will have plenty of other feed available. But a lot of your winter apples will stay on the tree until December, maybe even January. And then when they fall off the tree and can then be chicken feed, they're feeding the chickens well into the winter. And on top of that, winter apples tend to be a variety of keepers where they'll be like rocks until you get into deep winter. And now they're available as a chicken feed. Mulberries. What's that?
I went out on a ride yesterday, and I went through a canyon that I haven't been through before on my horses. And there's a tree, 2 huge old apple trees covered in apples. And the birds were all over them. And they haven't fallen. I mean, they're up there. They look like they've clearly frozen a bunch. I'm sure they're pretty soft. But I thought about taking the pigs over there and just letting them have some apples. But it's like, that's such a great tree that it's still covered in fruit, even though we're halfway through winter.
Have you seen that plum tree we got out back?
Yeah, you still have plums on your
Isn't that
plum.
Weird?
Oh, cool.
And so I'm kind of curious about how that goes as a chicken.
Got to get some chickens.
Yeah. So, but okay, there's heaps and heaps and heaps of things that chickens love to eat that you can plant and grow. And then the thing is, when you do a paddock shift system, then they're in there eating what you eat, what I eat. But what you do is it's like, okay, I'm going to move the chickens today into the new paddock. So the first thing I do is I go into that paddock and I harvest all the stuff that I want. Then I move the chickens in. And then the chickens want to eat the bugs first and foremost. But then, they'll start eating the things that I eat. But it's fine. I already got what I wanted out of there. They can have whatever's left. I like the idea of putting out that commercial chicken feed, organic, of course, that they can have and that they don't want it. Yeah. They would rather have what's fresh and of a higher quality. All right. Next slide, please.
With the chickens, another thing that I do is I just let them clean up after the other animals. I mean, they have a great time, screwing around where other animals have been, where the pigs or the sheep have been. They'd love to go in there and just pick around and, take care of all those bits too.
I think Sepp Holzer said something about the best pig food is cow poop.
Oh, well, the chickens do think the pig poop is something to be had.
Yeah, right. All fair. At the same time, it does seem like, what's left behind by one animal turns out to be a treat for another. I'm not sure how much I like that, but it's like, I don't know, the chickens, the hogs, they decide.
Yeah, I'm not a fan, but I like that the chickens will go in and clean up where the hogs are pretty messy about their breakfast. So it's nice the chickens will go tidy.
We have 2 giant solar food dehydrators. And now when the time comes that anybody is going to go dry some food, everybody wants to just use the solar food dehydrator with rocket assist. They just ignore the old one. I think the angle is better for the solar thing. And also, I think that now that it's got a bunch of rocks so that the sun heats the rocks, that it makes it so that the solar element of it works much longer. But even more than that is a lot of times you're harvesting and you need to dry food. And it's cloudy and rainy. It's fall. Yeah. And the days are shorter. And it's kind of like, so you just put a quick fire in there. We made a YouTube video a couple of months ago, where we took green firewood, and we made 3 pieces that were all pretty identical, and we put a moisture meter to all 3 of them. One we left outside, one we put in the old solar food dehydrator, and one we put in the new solar food dehydrator. And we measured it in like 24 hours, 3 days, and maybe a week. And it was the solar food dehydrator with rocket assist did an amazing job. It was clearly the winner. No contest. That's cool. I think a fun thing about this solar food dehydrator is that we needed an insulated wall in the back, and we did it with a slip straw that was using knapweed.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I don't know if you have much knapweed where you're at.
No, we have no knapweed.
We are absolutely covered in knapweed here. It is the bane of Montana. And so, but we gathered a bunch up, we dried it out, we chopped it to the right size, and we used it as a form of slip straw to be an insulative wall inside of this solar food dehydrator with rocket assist. And so I like the idea of trying to use knapweed more for that kind of thing as the years pass. So, all right. This is working fantastic. I don't know what else I can say about it. It's huge, and it dries a lot of food all at once, and we use it a lot, especially in the fall. But in the summer and maybe even the spring, we do run a lot of rhubarb through it. And we kind of make what we call rhubarb candy with it. If we go to the next slide, it's the cool box. Okay. Samantha, do you think you can do this slide? I need to take a quick bio break.
I can. This is something where you are going to set it up so you run a spring. Like if you have a spring, you can run spring water through it. If you have just a well, you can run your well through it. Just run the well water directly out of the cold earth and through this insulated box, and it'll keep your milk and your cheese, anything you need to keep cold. Looks like in the picture that maybe they got some eggs. You want to keep your eggs in the fridge. It's basically a fridge with no electricity. So, and you can use an old fridge. Maybe there's a really cool old fridge from the old days that doesn't work. So it looks neat, but it doesn't function. And that's a great way. I actually I know some people who have a artisanal spring, so it's running constantly. And they just have a box and the water just runs through the back and it keeps whatever they want cold. So that's a really cool thing. I just have a well, but the water's really cold when it comes out of the ground, so I think that I could do it like that. I think having, the thing about something like this is you can make it as big as you want, so you don't have to be limited by the size of a fridge, and worry about using electricity. If you were milking your animals and you were making cheese, you're going to need a lot of real estate in a fridge type situation, like a cheese cave. So it'd be a great way to do a cheese cave. A lot of those cheeses, they're going to be sitting there for a couple of years and you're going to be stacking up lots and lots of cheese. And if you want to do, like all your ferments, kimchi and pickled vegetables, they don't have to be super cold, but if they could be in a spring box, that would help keep that stuff from fermenting any further. So, and you can keep pickled vegetables or pickled meat. I do a lot of brines. So I take just take the fresh meat and put it in a very salty solution with some herbs and just keep it submerged, and it'll last for months and months that way. And if you had a spring box, you could have, I love the idea that you could have as much space as you wanted, right? Like I've run out of space in the fridge, but if it's a spring box or a cool box, you can just keep making another one if you want more space. I think that's a good one. I probably don't know if I can say anything else about that. Do you want to do the next slide, Andreas? Berms and wind. This is such an important thing. I remember when I moved out to this place and it was so windy and my horse would always go stand in this one spot. And I'm like, why does he stand there? It's like windy as anything. I made him a barn. Why does he stand out on this spot? And so I would go out there and stand with him, and there was no wind there. And it was because there was a huge berm behind it, and you couldn't really tell looking across the valley why that particular spot was protected. But when you actually stood in it, he was in a little dip, and there was a big berm behind him, and he was, underneath the lip of the hill, just dead calm in this one spot. So it's kind of cool when the animals find that for you. But this is a way, the berms are a way you can create that for yourself. It doesn't have to be natural. You can make it.
We have a lot of berms here. And adding texture to the landscape in general is something I do a lot of, and are a big part of my permaculture designs. But a lot of times it's to add privacy, but a lot of times it's also to reduce the wind. And if you can reduce the wind, that makes everything a little bit more moist, and which, here in a desert area is important. But it also keeps things a little bit warmer. Mm-hmm. And so, which is important for a cold climate like Montana. But it also reduces the noise, like from a county road. That's what we're doing, is trying to reduce noise from a county road. And it gives us a lot of extra growing space. And so, I don't know, it's a great gardening solution. So many people want to make everything flat. And now that I've been building berms for so many years, it seems like when I drive to places, I see where other people have done the exact same thing. They've built a giant berm between them and the road that I'm on at the moment. And it's like, yep, I don't think there's anything better. So many people start talking about like, I'm going to plant all these trees. And it's like, trees just aren't as good.
As a berm, yeah, for privacy and for stopping the wind.
Yeah, and for reducing noise.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it is powerful. The berms are so powerful. And I know that somebody came here and was videoing me, and I talked about the berms, and she made a video on her YouTube channel about me talking about the berms. And basically at the time, you could I was pointing at like, see the grasses growing on top of the berm and how they're waving in the wind?
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
And now you see the same grasses down here at our feet, and they're not moving at all. Yeah. And so just to kind of give you an idea about that. And then, of course, there's the whole idea of like, if you walk around the berm, now you can hear the county road. And then if you come back, then it's like, it's amazing. I mean, it doesn't eliminate that sound, but it does reduce it a lot.
Yeah.
I'm Edward Norton. No, not that one, the other one. And I love pies. No, not that kind, the other kind. Permies is an old school forum packed full of friendly people who occasionally give out a slice of pie. You'll never forget your first slice of pie. It made me feel so good, I had to buy a whole pie so I could share the love. Oh, and there's apples too. Sign up at permies.com to join in the world of homesteading and permaculture, and you too might get a slice of pie.
Next slide, please. All right, stealth pond. Dig a pond, fill it with huge rocks, and then you've got water when you need it. I'm kind of amazed at how many people keep asking me about stealth pond stuff. But I don't have a stealth pond here at this time. We're just doing open ponds. But okay, sure, fine. Some people need a stealth pond. Like wherever they are, they don't want to get into it with somebody about having a pond, but they want the benefits of having a pond. And they have rocks, so they're all set.
Well, I can see it as an excellent solution, a place where you have a lot of evaporation, and like every drop is precious, because it's protected down there, and it's going to stay cool, and it's not gonna go anywhere.
Right. So basically, it's going to fill up in the fall, the winter, and the spring, and be available to you all summer long for whatever your water needs are. All right, next slide, please. Natural swimming pool. And David Pagan Butler has a movie and a book, which we sell on Permies. And there's so many great examples of natural swimming pools. But the idea is that rather than something that's chlorine-based, it's going to have a way of circulating the water, but through a reed system. And so the biological life that is encouraged filters the water. So you have this nice, clean swimming pool. But there can be fish and frogs in your swimming pool.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so, and then David Pagan Butler also talks about techniques you might use to warm the pool a little bit and stuff like that. But a lot of his pools aren't connected to any kind of creek or stream or anything like that. They're just standalone pools, kind of like how people do normal chlorinated swimming pools.
Yeah.
So, and they are stunning and beautiful, and they cost less to build. Next slide, please. So normally when I present, so the paddock shift system stuff is normally part of my presentation on replacing irrigation with permaculture. And I love to present into a big room with a whole bunch of people. And so if there's like a few hundred people in the room, I'll say, I'm going to make a statement, and I want to see if and based on my personal observations, and I want to see if there's anybody else who's done paddock shift systems in the audience right now who has the same experience. And so I'm going to say, you get 5 times more growies with a paddock shift system. And for me, the paddocks, I had paddocks set up, and I had areas that I had not yet made into a paddock. And so I would run my animals, pulse them through the paddocks, and then I would observe that the area inside of the paddock would become far lusher than the area outside of the paddock, which is not part of the paddock shift system.
Mm-hmm.
And then the animals would come in and graze that down substantially. So now it's, on par with the stuff outside of the paddock. Mm-hmm. And then, boom, grow back again.
Yeah.
So my estimate was 5 times more grows. And so I'd ask the audience, who's done paddock shift systems and has experienced something similar? And usually about one person out of 20 would put up their hand like, oh, yeah, I've done that. Yeah. And that's what I observed, too. And so it's stunning. It's amazing. And so all of your systems benefit from paddock shift. Cattle, sheep, goats, pigs, chickens, etc., all of them will work. It increases the quality and the quantity of forage. It increases the water holding capacity of the soil. So this is without irrigation, without any other effort. And there's the Stockman Grass Farmers Journal is out there, and it's a whole journal that comes out monthly based on these philosophies.
That's so
and people
cool.
having tremendous success with it. Why bother feeding your cattle any kind of grain or any kind of this other stuff when paddock shift works so incredibly well? Paddock shift systems also help to extend the growing season.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a big win all the way around. All right, next slide, please. All right, mycelium insulation. So Bo came out here on 2 different projects, and he built things where it was mycelium insulation was part of it. And so mycelium being a mushroom, so the mushroom that you see would be the fruiting body of the mycelium that's inside of the substrate, or usually inside the soil. But in this case, we're usually using straw or sawdust, and then the mycelium grow throughout it. And then because we're not continuing to give water to them, it basically turns into mycelium jerky. But along the way, it made this material fireproof and with an extremely high insulation value. So in one of the movies, I think it's Low Tech Laboratory 1, Bo takes a chunk of this mycelium insulation and he puts a propane torch to it. And he cannot get it to ignite.
Burn, yeah. That's so cool.
And so apparently a big test for a lot of insulations is you need to be able to hold the flame for the propane torch for 60 seconds or something.
Yeah.
But apparently a lot of the other insulative options fail. And but the mycelium insulation passes with room to spare. So it's amazing. And then on top of it, once it's done, it's rigid. And so it actually adds to the structural integrity of the building that it's used in.
Well, he was building it. He was building a piece, with studs in the wall or the roof or even a door, and then it grows in the wall. So it goes to fill whatever space you have.
Yeah.
And that was really, really neat.
So it kind of seals it off, whereas other installations, a lot of them, they don't spread themselves out. So if the installation's installed a little on the loose side for whatever reason, then it kind of sucks. But mycelium insulation fills all those gaps.
It does. It kind of mushrooms into any crack between the boards or any of that. It filled it up. It was I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in terms of insulation. I don't think you can't even compare any of the other kinds of insulation to it. Like, there's no reason somebody would buy the garbage at the store that's all toxic or some other thing. I mean, if you could just do this, it's so cool. And it performs better.
It does. So the pink stuff is apparently R3 per inch and the mycelium insulation is R4 per inch.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah. Next slide, please. Sealing a pond without a liner. In fact, we got a YouTube video demonstrating this, and it's a BB as part of the SKIP program.
Uh-huh.
But I think you're supposed to dig a hole that's 3 feet across.
Okay.
And then you're supposed to demonstrate how if you pour water in it, the water disappears. And then you emulate the pig's hoof.
Uh-huh.
And seal your little 3 foot across pond and put water in it again. And this time you demonstrate how the water does not leak anymore.
Yeah.
So in this image here, that's a pond that we built. This is part of the World Domination Gardening movie, which you can see the link earthworksmovie.com down there. But we built this pond and we weren't done building it and we had a surprise rain event. And because of the earthworks that we did up to this point, the pond filled. And my understanding is that it didn't rain a single drop for the next 4 months after this rain event. And the pond lost 2 inches over that whole time after we were done with this project, which I think is just astounding. But and this was an area where we were trying to work around a lot of cracked bedrock, which does not seal, and we did find some clay in the soil, and we worked it the correct way, which is basically trying to emulate the pig. Some people will seal a pond with actual pigs. So anyway, this is a technique that's very effective, and Sepp Holzer hates it when anybody uses a liner on a pond. Then why not just emulate the pig? Next slide, please. Junk pole fence. We're back to the whole thing of where people have these big fires to burn all of their wildfire fuel. And instead, we build these junk pole fences. And so we gather up this stuff. So basically what happens is there'll be a bunch of tiny trees all growing in a bunch. And then 95% of them will die. And then they're just sitting there waiting for a wildfire. And so what we do is we go and we trim those all out. And then we call it junk pole, and we make fences out of it. And so, we do tons of stuff with junk pole. Mm-hmm. And then anything that we trimmed out, we either use as a mulch or as a debris pile, like a brush pile, which brings your zone 5 to your zone 1, which is, I think, terrific.
Very cool.
But there's 100 different uses for all of this wood. Yeah. But one of the things that we've been doing is building a junk pole fence. Now, I got to confess that our earliest designs had a lot of problems, and we're really getting it dialed in now, and we're making some really solid fence. Yeah. I think we're getting close enough that it's probably getting to be time that we should contemplate making a book or a movie or something like that. Yeah. About what to do with woody bits besides burn it. Besides burn it in a wildfire or in wildfire prevention. Mm-hmm. But the junk pole fence design is doing extremely well. Next slide, please. Skip. So a framework to connect industrious people with elderly landowners. that's kind of how it started. But now I'd say 90% of the people that are doing the BBs, they've got a different motivation. So the whole project started where I kept having people offer me land. Like, can I give you my land and then you do the permaculture thing on it? And it's like, I got my own land. So, and then, Samantha, I don't know if you ever met Mike Ayler.
I never got to meet him, no.
So he's a friend and he's a kook. But he would call me and say, give me the name of somebody who is worthy to will my land to, because I'm about to check out. And I said, well, you had over 100 interns. Why not have one of them? And it's like, no, they all suck. All 100 of them. And when I have talked about this in other places, the response to that is clearly the problem has to do with Mike and not with those 100 innocent souls. And I think it's a bit of both. I mean, they need to bridge the gap, but I think that the interns that show up, they're not ready to manage land. That's why they're there. They're there as an intern to kind of learn the ropes and learn how to do this. And then and a lot of them, and Mike had so many stories. But a lot of the stories, it's like, yeah, okay, I can see for that person why you would not will your land to that person. Okay, next, and there's another story. And each person is so different. But when it comes to the skip thing, then the next thing that happens is if we say that we've got somebody who's looking for somebody worthy to will their land to, we'll get thousands of people that will step up and say, oh, me, I'm worthy, will it to me. And they haven't done anything. And so SKIP is a program where it's 1,477 homesteading projects that can be verified. And so when you have a couple hundred of them under your belt that have been verified, the people with land see that as worthy. Now, the funny thing is, 90% of the people that are doing the BBs are not looking for land. They're not looking for somebody that's going to will land to them. They've already got land. They're all set. And so it's like, well, why even bother? And so what they're doing is that they'll do one of these projects, submit all the stuff, and they'll get feedback on whether they screwed it up or not. That's what they want. They want the experience of doing the project, which, by the way, when you're all done, like if you carved a wooden spoon, now you got a wooden spoon that you carved. Mm-hmm. But in addition to that, someone will tell you, you suck at carving wooden spoons, do it over. You have submitted a stick with a fat end and it's covered in blood. Do it over. And so, in fact, it's kind of funny because I'd say only half of the first attempts at a wooden spoon are accepted. The other half, people need to do it twice. And so wooden spoon is just a great example for that. But, okay, the key is that I think right now SKIP is a great program because, and the weird thing is I'm going to guess that there's something like, I don't know, tens of millions of properties that are people are just walking away from them. When they die, they're just gone. They just go to the government. And it's like, why not have these go to permaculture people? Wouldn't that be terrific? So, especially now when college is probably not a great idea, this is a great program. Okay. It's all free. If you go to permies.com/skip, it's the whole program is free. Everything about it is free. And so, whether you are a person submitting BBs, or you're a person looking for somebody worthy. Everything is all free. Next slide, please. GERT. This kind of comes back to that thing I was talking about a little bit earlier, where people were like saying awful things about me because I think they were trying to say, like, where's the farm? And it's kind of like, I don't advocate a farm. I advocate gratitude. And so it's kind of like, when you have a farm, the way that you make decisions is very different than if you're trying to grow food to feed yourself. So, for example, sunchokes are a great example. If you grow a lot of sunchokes, you've got a bunch of food to eat through the winter, but they don't have good shelf life. And so they wouldn't do well as a farm. So if it would be challenging to try to sell them to people. They just don't keep long. And when you're farming, you got to sell it to the commodity central thing that stores it for a couple of weeks or whatever. And then they pack it over to the grocery store, who take time in order to be able to put it out on the shelf for people to eat. And so the things that are available at the grocery store are things that have a good shelf life.
Yeah.
And so when you're growing a farm, that's the only thing you think about, is what has a good shelf life. And that's the only thing you grow. In fact, you're going to grow a type of broccoli that has a good shelf life. And if there's another variety of broccoli that tastes better or is better in a bunch of other ways, you're going to not grow it.
Yeah, you might grow that for yourself and for your family, but not for profit at your farm.
But, okay, you might grow it for yourself, but if you grow it for yourself, that's not a farm. And the thing I'm complaining and whining about right now is this whole farm mentality. And so many people keep looking at their garden as a tiny farm. And I kind of feel like, no, please don't do that. And stop trying to have a farm. Instead, have a garden. And then maybe your garden gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you're growing more food than you could possibly eat, and you can sell that if you want. But I firmly advocate for gratitude, which is, and basically gratitude is to have a humble home and a large garden. And we've been talking about this so much in the last year, mostly because people are getting drummed out of the workforce, and and it's like they feel very screwed, and they're getting very desperate for work. And I kind of feel like, work? Why would you want to work? I mean, doesn't that sound sucky, just the whole idea of it? And of course, their mind can't embrace anything else. And when I try to talk about gratitude, the naysayers say something like, it sounds like you're trying to encourage people to be impoverished. And it's like, in a way, yes. But it's like right now, people go to a worky job, and all of the money that they earn goes to their food and housing and paying for getting to work and what they wear to work and all that stuff. And all I'm saying is it's like, how about if you have a humble home and a large garden, and then your expenses are reduced by what, 95%? And now, if you happen to bring in a couple of bucks here and there along the way, doing 5 hours a week on average of work, then you've got plenty of money. You probably have more money than when you lived in the city and had that worky job. All right. Next slide, please. Cleaners you can eat. I think a lot of people are getting really sick because of the cleaners that they use in their home, the different kinds of things that they're using to clean with. And I know, like, Andreas is hiding here, but Andreas tells me that down in Colombia, where he lives, that a lot of the people he knows, they grow lemon trees and lime trees, but apparently lime is the preferred cleaner, to just use lime juice. And lemon juice is great, but usually, like here in Montana, you're going to have to pay for that. I know that a lot of people like to use vinegar for cleaning. I hate using vinegar for cleaning. It stinks. I prefer to use citric acid. But I mean, like if people are going to buy something, I'd like to suggest to not buy your conventional cleaners. And some people, when they go to clean something, it's like, I'm going to go wipe off the counters, and they spray some kind of cleaner material on the counters. And it's kind of like, I kind of think that most of the cleaning that you ever do is done with warm water and a washcloth and elbow grease. And that's going to be, it's going to leave a cleaner surface. And it's going to cost less, and it's going to be less toxic. But all right, for cleaners, I tend to use mostly citric acid because our water has a lot of lime in it, and so the citric acid as part of a cleaner really wipes all that lime crust off of things. But we also will use baking soda from time to time, and salt. I use salt when cleaning cast iron pans a lot. But I love the thing about using sunlight. But anyway, Raven's got this book out, Clean with Cleaners You Can Eat, which I think is just a lovely and delightful book. And I hope everybody races out and buys it. It's just terrific. But really, it's like so much of it is just warm water, maybe some citric acid, maybe some salt. I think you're pretty much set right there. Next slide, please. Dry stack. We do a lot with dry stack here, but I think that the ultimate test of dry stack is this thing you can see in the image, which is what's called a moon gate. And that's where you create a wall and there's a hole in the middle. And we do like the idea of making something with like a 6.5 foot diameter hole someday so that you can walk through it. But for now, we have this thing that exists. It's just a wall it's a 2 foot diameter hole in it. But it shows off that your dry stack skills are great. And I think that when you're doing dry stack, it's generally quite simple. Maybe we need to, I've got a couple of videos out about doing dry stack right now, but maybe it's time to make another one. But pretty much it's 2/1, 1/2. And that is that you want to make sure that any rocks that you place are covering where the other two rocks below meet. And so it helps to hold the rock wall together. Also, you want to stack it in such a way so that if you're going to do a standalone wall, that the two sides of the wall lean in. And this is the same sort of a thing whenever you're going to do a retaining wall, just that one is leaning in. Also, I think a high quality gravel, a sharp gravel, is the thing that really makes your walls last hundreds of years instead of, 4 years. But we're not using any mortar of any kind. It's just a stack of rocks. And we have a lot of dry stack projects that are completely exposed to the elements, and they have been standing for 10 years or more. And I think that they're all going to last a long, long time. All right, next slide, please. Berm shed. So this shed that we built, that is basically a roundwood timber frame structure. It's $500 for 1,500 square feet. So I think that for most people using more conventional techniques, $500 is going to give you a really tiny shed. So this is a massive, massive shed. And on one side, it's a shed, and on the other side, it just looks like a berm. And so we're using some of Mike Ayler's tricks to basically make this shed. And so there's a membrane involved, and then we just pile all the dirt up on top of it. And it's a strong structure. It has served us really well. And now we're starting to kind of build some firewood racks underneath the eaves. I think it's making it even more beautiful. And so anyway, it's kept a lot of stuff dry for many, many years. I'm trying to think, how long have we had it? I'm thinking it's, yeah, I'm gonna say it's like we've had a berm shed here for 10 years now. And the great thing is since we've been sharing all of the details about the berm shed online, we've had some people make some suggestions, which I think were rather brilliant. And I think that if we were to rebuild this berm shed like up at the lab, with 4 people, I think the whole thing would be done in 2 weeks.
Wow. That's great.
And we could probably get the costs under $200.
Wow.
Because we're just getting better at it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I think it's a rather brilliant thing. And, next slide, please. Roundwood timber framing. We do a lot with roundwood timber framing. Oh, and look, there's the picnic table.
Yeah. Beautiful. Your picnic table.
This is our version 3.0 of our log picnic table, which I enjoy so much. It has 0 fasteners, 0 glue, and there's not even pegs to hold it together. It's just stacked wood to make a picnic table. And we just shaped the logs so that it could be stacked easily. And we've moved it a couple of times.
Great. You moved it to the Montana Fair and it just took it apart and put it back together. So cool.
And so total strangers were sitting on it. They just come and sit down like, oh, yeah, I know what this is. This is a picnic table. I'm going to sit here. And it's like, okay, fine. But, okay, roundwood timber framing. We do a lot of roundwood timber. The berm shed is roundwood timber framing. All the wafatis are roundwood timber framing. The greenhouse is roundwood timber framing. We just do lots and lots and lots, and we're getting better and better and better at doing the joinery. But the big thing is that we're trying to avoid the use of any paint or cement. And, we're also trying to avoid the use of metal, which is expensive. And so we're coming up with these, and I kind of feel like we're moving into pure wood. So like this picnic table that you see here is a pure wood picnic table because there's no fasteners of any kind and there's no glue. It's just gravity holding it together. And I kind of feel like that is art and beauty. Yeah. And I want to make more of that. Totally. And the grape arbor is such a beautiful example.
That is lovely. Yeah, that was really great what Bo did there.
I mean, it looks like nothing, but of course a dovetail joint went into it. I just think it's brilliant.
Is the cost there when you're saying the $200 or $500 for the shed, is that diesel and gas? Is that where that cost is?
No, we spent money on the membrane. And for that design, for the berm shed, we used rebar spikes that are hidden to help hold it together. But I like the idea of doing better joinery in the future, so we don't need the rebar spikes.
Okay, so the diesel and the gas would be maybe beyond that idea of price. Is that more?
That is a fair point, because when we moved the logs down, then we would drag them down with either the tractor or some other rig.
Okay.
And so that would be diesel or gas.
Mm-hmm.
And then also when we were building it, we would use the tractor to help lift logs and stuff for a lot of it. Although we're now transitioning to using the tractor much, much less for that kind of thing. And we're doing a lot more moving heavy logs around with something manual.
Really? There was a video years ago that you were using a tractor, and I think you called it a gin pole.
Right.
It was wild what you guys were doing when you were building this stuff.
So, right, the tractor wouldn't be able to lift some of the logs up high enough. So what we did is we built a gin pole in the bucket, and it was like a 16-foot pole mounted in the bucket, so we could lift the logs higher.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Now I kind of think like, well, how about if we just set up a gin pole and use that, and we don't need the tractor.
Yeah.
And so we've been doing a lot more with gin poles and similar sorts of things lately to move large logs around. Here's a silly little thing. If you can build a home entirely from roundwood without fasteners or glue, you get extra points for going to Woodworkers Valhalla.
That's funny.
This podcast is continued in part 3.
Hi, this is Mark. There are a lot of reasons to get angry these days, but I prefer to focus on the positive things that we each can do to make this world a better place. The book Building a Better World in Your Backyard, Instead of Being Angry at Bad Guys, is a great resource for just that. Instead of throwing my arms up in frustration at governments or big corporations, there's a list of ideas that we each can tackle to affect change. Information about this book and other resources can be found at permies.com.